When most murders happen in the Fallout universe, it's because of the various creatures and cretins that prowl the waste. Many shaped by the environment they grew up in and that constantly try to murder them. For this pint-sized shit, such an excuse does not fly. The Pint Sized Slasher was a pre-war serial killer, one who was spoken of as both an actual person and as an urban legend such as Hookman. This person did not have the excuse of a new world order, nuclear fire, or simply having to do what they did to survive. They became a bastard all on their own. Good for them. So let's take a little look at the story behind this crazed killer. The costume/disguise is the most immediately recognizable and creepy thing about them. They wear a sexy pair of jeans to complement their arse, and a striped shirt. Of course, if that is the first thing that you recognize when you look at them, you're not right in the head. The most immediate feature is the big fucking clown mask that is gazing into the depths of your soul and weighing your worth. The mask and the rest of the clothing are in fact, according to the Fallout 3 game guide, the second best selling Halloween costume in pre-war America. The first being Captain Cosmos. I want to point out here that the Pint Sized Slasher is a reference to the movie Halloween. You know, in case nobody got that. Now, the original myth dictates the Pint Sized Slasher would appear from a doghouse and attack any children who stayed out after dusk. The myth seems to have been created to have a boogeyman effect on children, to give them something to fear and make them come inside at night. On Tranquility Lane, Dr. Braun tells us that we are to act out this myth, and true to form, we emerge from a doghouse and slaughter the inhabitants of Tranquility Lane. Now, they immediately flee from us, which I find odd as they are real people. So why would they fear something that was just a myth and popular Halloween costume? Well, we must journey to the Capital Post and read a news article to find the answer to that question. The article reads as follows. By Walter Streetbeat Monroe, Capital Post staff writer. What American child alive hasn't heard the story of the Pint Sized Slasher? That diminutive demon in a clown mask who stalks and slashes the innocent residents of supposedly safe suburbia. It's just one of the many folk stories parents use to scare their youngsters into behaving themselves. Or is it? According to Germantown Police Chief Joseph Field, the Pint Sized Slasher may be more real than many people would like to admit. After reviewing the autopsy reports of the Linden Street slayings, we have confirmed that the source and direction of every knife wound are consistent with an attack from a much smaller assailant, a child to be precise. Add to the sinister forensic findings this statement from Christopher Atkinson, the one surviving victim of the adolescent assassin, and it becomes clear the Pint Sized Slasher does indeed walk among us. The clown, he's going to kill us all. Do you understand me? He stabbed my brother Sean right in the face. He killed my brother, the little clown. But assuming the Pint Sized Slasher is indeed a real, tangible threat to the peace-loving residents of DC suburbia, one question remains. Why? What could possibly motivate a child to don a clown mask and murder innocent people in cold blood? We may never know. At least not until the miniature maniac is brought to justice. Until then, all we can do is lock our doors, kiss our children goodnight, and pray they live to see the morning. So from the article we learn quite a few things. In the first paragraph he states the legend predates the actual murders. Every child has heard it, so we can assume the legend itself has been around for several years at this point. Maybe a few, maybe a lot. The second paragraph tells us that the wounds were consistent with the height of a child. Though without the testimony from the witness, a serial killer who crawls on all fours or squats while they kill would, in my opinion, be just as likely. The witness states it was a little clown. We can also assume his brother Sean was young, or how did the killer manage to stab him in the beak, bar knocking him over. The last paragraph is weird. They assume it's a child. I find that odd, as my first assumption would be a midget or a very small adult, as the circumstances to drive a child to kill like this would be fucked up on a level equal to the shit we see in the waste. This also explains why the adults ran from us in Tranquility Lane, as they would have heard about the murders, although Braun still calls it a myth, which I find odd. What about its presence in the waste? Well, unfortunately, we never encountered them, but that isn't to say that we never find evidence of their presence outside Tranquility Lane. In the Point Lookout DLC, there is a hotel called the Homestead, located north of the pier. Many of the rooms here have interesting things in them, one of which we visited during my video on the Velvet Curtain. But for now, the only room that we are concerned with is room 1K, which has just so much fucked up shit in it. So the entire room is filled with all sorts of shit. There's blood coating all the walls, and does so in a manner that to me suggests a lot of spray when it happened. So the victim or victims may have been alive. How many there are is hard to say, but it's easily over 5. You could write this off as just more tribal stuff, until you see the Pint Sized Slasher's mask in the bathtub. All the bodies are also skeletons by this point, so this had to have happened a while ago as well. The way the victims were killed is also something to note. There seems to be a newly killed person by the bed and one on it, possibly the newest victims that the blood came from. All the tribal sculptures are weird as well, as it does not fit the MO of the Pint Sized Slasher. Another mask can be found with Kenny, but I think this one might be the authentic one, or at least it definitely belonged to a pre-war killer. The key for this room was in the reception, so it has most likely been locked since before the war. The state these bodies are in doesn't really match up with the slasher, but these were definitely murders. Another thing is that all the other murders were reported in DC, and this is far removed from that. I think this might have been the work of a copycat killer, possibly the individual lying in the baths with a mask, who seemed to have been eating beans, and then they may have killed themselves or died from fallout. Or it may have been the actual killer and they decided to change up their MMO so the police wouldn't get the trail. We may never know. So that's it. All we know on the Pint Sized Shitlord. What started as an urban myth to scare children was adopted by a deranged murderer and used as their MO, no doubt because they knew what associations would arise from them doing so. We too donned the mask and set about carrying on their work as one means to escape Tranquility Lane, which I have covered in another video. Whether or not that killer we find in Point Lookout is the same Pint Sized Slasher or just a copycat is unknown, but one thing is for sure, they are both fucking arsewipes. I hoped you liked this episode about one of the most notorious serial killers ever to grace pre-war America. If you did, why not leave a like? I love reading comments, so get them in there. Any suggestions for future content or videos you would like me to do are appreciated and welcome. If you want to help me grow, share this video on as many social media sites as you can, especially Reddit. Tell everybody. If you want to contact me regarding business, send me a private message either here or on Twitter and I will get back to you as soon as possible. I hope to see you in my next episode. And until then, goodbye.